So let's talk about the impeachment trial real quick. As you all know, because we talked about it heavily the day after it happened, there was an insurrection on Capitol Hill on January 6th, where these guys who were still so convinced that Donald Trump won the election decided to march in the Capitol, break through. They harmed police officers, Capitol police officers.
They killed the police officer.
One of them was bludgeoned to death. Two of them ended up committing suicide in the days that followed. One of the protesters ended up getting shot by Secret Service or something like that. Another three died from complications.
I don't know if it was Secret Service. It might have been just not Capitol Police.
I don't think it was Capitol Police, but it was one of the security detail of.
Yeah, it was a security detail for an actual politician.
It was a guy in a suit.
Yeah.
It was a guy in a suit. So anyway, multiple people died from this, right? Yeah. People were shook when it happened. Lindsey Graham was like, I've had enough of this, or whatever the hell he said. And then within like a week, they all started saying that, hey, let's move on from this. We don't need to hold anyone accountable. We don't, So a week after it happened, the House voted to impeach. 10 Republicans voted with the Democrats to impeach. The rest of them, 170 plus, voted to not impeach. Basically saying that it's cool to incite an insurrection. We're not going to hold you accountable. All right. So January 13th, it was done. Nancy Pelosi sent it to Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell said that we can't do this impeachment till February, right? We don't have the time for it. So they pushed it to February. Why that's important is that Donald Trump was out of office by January 20th. This will become important because in the Senate trial, the Republicans, 44 of them, voted to say that it was unconstitutional to have this trial because he was out of office. And then 43 of those 44 voted to acquit because they said it was unconstitutional, even though the constitutionality of it was voted on earlier and it passed, saying that it was constitutional. 43 of them ended up voting no, and their claim was that it was unconstitutional. Right.
The crazy part to me about that is that's like me saying, well, you can't try me for murder because I murdered them then. I'm not murdering now.
Right. Or you can't try me for murdering a 17-year-old. Let's say there's a different penalty for murdering a minor versus someone that's an adult, right? You can't try me for murdering a 17-year-old because when I murdered him, he was 17 years and 11 months old. But then now that we're doing the trial, he would have been 18. So you can't try me for murdering a child. That's essentially what that is. So anyway, so then our first quote from our top 5, where McConnell says that there's no question that Trump is practically morally responsible, was following him saying that he essentially said he voted to acquit because Donald Trump is no longer president. Therefore, we can't vote to convict. But he was the one who delayed it till after he was no longer president. The whole thing was mind-boggling. It was crazy. But also, sorry, you had something to say?
Well, no, I was gonna say because you Zino was really screwed up about that because he literally messaged me like, "What the hell is this guy doing? Like, you voted to acquit him, but then you're talking about he was responsible, and he was holding on to one word, wasn't it? Like one particular word?
Insurrection. Insurrection. Saying that, well, that word, no, inciting violence. Saying that
you string fire
meaning
in a building and cause people to trample some people and kill them. You're responsible for saying fire. It's the same thing. But the crazy part to me, well, what you asked me was like, why would he do this? And I said, to me, this guy is always campaigning. Like, even if he's not up for 6 years, even if he might be dead in 6 years, because, he is old too. But he is always campaigning. And now he has, if people counter him with, oh, you said this, he can counter it with like, but I acquitted. And if people say you acquitted him, well, I did say that he was responsible. This guy is always playing both sides of both sides of the conservative view.
Yeah, he's trying to have his cake and eat it too. to your thing about he could be dead in 6 years because he's old. He's actually backing a plan put forth by the where is he from? Kentucky? Yeah, by the Kentucky GOP legislature that states that the governor must appoint a replacement for McConnell from a list of 3 names given to them by McConnell's party. The governor of Kentucky is a Democrat, Andy Beshear, and they say they want to force him to replace McConnell with someone from the GOP, which is like, come on now, like just so basically McConnell already knows that he probably won't serve out his term. So I want to make sure that I'm not replaced with a damn Democrat.
Well, the good thing is I'm pretty sure that would actually go to that would be Supreme Court. That's Supreme Court level kind of crap. You know?
I don't know, man. The Supreme Court is stacked conservative, so
that's true. But we have actually been able to say is the Supreme Court still is the Supreme Court, where parties don't always think that the party is they're gonna vote party lines.
We don't always dictate how they move. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Another thing I want to talk about with the impeachment before I go to the next quote is I don't know if you watched any of it, but so Trump was basically on his 3rd string of lawyers, right? Because the first couple of strings basically were like, nah, we can't do this.
A clown show.
Yeah. The first guy that comes out, dang, I can't remember his name.
Cruz, no?
No, Castor. Bruce Castor. Basically after the House impeachment managers did their whole thing, he came out and it was like, yeah, these guys killed it, right? Like these guys are really good. He wasn't prepared. He didn't know what he wanted to talk about.
No. He said, I'm gonna counter everything they just said.
Yeah, I have a response for everything they've said.
Yeah.
But they did a really good job. And then he started talking about, when I was growing up, I love how people say my senator. And it's like
he turned into Seinfeld. He turned into, what's the deal with them calling you my senator?
Yeah. And then he's talking about certain senators from when he was growing up that had nice voices. And it's like, what is this dude talking about? And then
he did the Trump card. Trump literally does that himself. Like he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Goes
so he
off on a tangent.
Saying words and
does
a barrage of words and they don't make sense, but he fills the time.
He was getting roasted in conservative media. He was getting roasted by Hannity. He was getting roasted on OAN, all of those. And then you've got the other guy, Michael Van der Veen, who they voted on whether they should have witnesses, and that vote passed, but then they ended up not getting witnesses. But he was saying that we're not doing, like, if we're going to get witnesses, I have witnesses that I want to call up. I'm thinking Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, and then it's like, and we're not doing it over Zoom. We didn't do this trial over Zoom. They're going to come over to my office in Philadelphia. And everyone just started laughing. And he didn't know why they were laughing. And it was like, I don't know why you're laughing. I never laughed at you. The whole thing was just so...
You know what's crazy?
Secondhand embarrassment.
No, you know what's the craziest part? They won.
Yeah, they won. That's the thing.
They how much you want to bet they literally afterwards, they're like, we did good.
Yeah. 43 votes. Yeah, we did good.
We did good.
Freaking hell. All right. So speaking of 43 votes, the next quote from the top 5 was the GOP chairman from Washington County, Pennsylvania, saying that we didn't send Pat Toomey over there to vote his conscience or do the right thing. We sent him there to represent us. I mean, I've been saying this for a good while now. Zeus, you've been saying it too, that the Republicans have started saying the quiet parts out loud, right? Like it's like before, it used to be like a thing where we know that you're cynical. You just don't have to say that you're cynical, right? We know that it's about craving just season of power, and it's not really about morality or doing the right thing by the people of the country. It's just, what do my donors want? And that's what this guy basically said here. It's like, what do you mean moral? What do you mean the right thing? You're there for us, so stop with the mess. And I when I heard that quote, I was like, wow, like just wow. So yeah, anything to add on that before I go to the last one?
No. It's just after a while, man, you feel defeated by these guys. You know, you really do. Like that's the sad part is like you just feel like, yo, these people can go without absolutely any consequences. Like they really can. Yeah. Although I will mention consequences. The funny part is, I think we talked about this like in private, where the people have been arrested, right? There was one black guy that got arrested. And I think the biggest thing was the fact that everybody else had gotten a bond but him. So, you know.
Well, I know the guy that put his foot on Nancy Pelosi's desk wasn't granted bail or bond or whatever.
Well, that's because he's an actual white supremacist. He's a domestic terrorist.
Yeah, and you can see that in the picture that they showed, that the House impeachment managers showed, he has a stun gun there. He has an actual weapon on him. I mean, people like to act like, oh, nothing happened. A lot could have happened. There were so many videos that were shown during this impeachment trial that I hadn't seen before, and I don't think most people had seen before. Which is why, you know, people want to say, what's the point of the impeachment anyway? Like, we know he's going to get acquitted. I think it's a really good thing that this happened, because you have it for the historical record that the Officer Eugene Goodman was basically saved Romney from running into the insurrectionists, because Romney and his protection detail or whatever were going in one direction, and you see Officer Goodman running across, and he's like, no, run that way, like they're coming from there. And you see, I've never seen Romney take off like that before, but you see Romney like running the other way. And then obviously we've seen that longer video of Goodman like trying to, you know, usher those guys away from, you know, from going to the Senate chamber. Yeah. There was the video of when they were actually breaking through the Capitol.
You skipped the part where Romney, they were that close to the nuclear football.
Oh, Pence. Yes.
I'm sorry, not Romney.
Yeah, when they were ushering Pence out, and it's like they were very close to where those insurrectionists were coming from, and the guys that were ushering Pence out had the nuclear football, which is what they call the case with the
which to me makes it even more crazy. And Zino, get the bleeper ready. You used it last week. I'm going to let you use it again. Pence. You know why? Because this dude, literally, these people were sent to get him. Trump sent them to get him. The dude decides, I'm not going to invoke the 25th Amendment. I'm not going to speak up against him. I'm still going to line up. I don't know if that's because he was like, well, I didn't get killed, so I can still run in 2024.
Oh, I'm not dead. Yeah. And then he goes and shows up to Biden's inauguration, kind of like, hey, look, bipartisan. No, bipartisan is actually acting up, actually holding people accountable, you know, actually doing your part too. Bipartisan isn't, hey, we effed up, now you have to extend the hand.
And Pence is not, you're never going to hold another, I mean, unless you run for it, maybe you'll get it because you were the vice president. But you know, how many presidents go back and actually run politics? He ain't going to be president. He ain't getting voted in.
Like, yeah, no, if you're vice president, you run for president. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Because, I mean, I guess you could go backwards and try to run for governor of Indiana.
I mean, he could be like John Adams if he wants to be, and go try to run, you know, be like what? When the John Adams did law, right? No, he became remember John Adams was the second president. Was John Adams, I think it was John Adams or John Quincy Adams, one of those two.
Quincy Adams was the fifth. John was the second.
No, I know, but I'm saying it was one of those two that did the whole if you watched Amistad, I forget what, I think it was John Quincy Adams represented what's his name?
Chairman Hunsey?
Yeah, he was representing him, but one of those two went back and actually ran for politics again. And then maybe Mike Pence could do that, but the thing is, though, he's not going to be taken serious enough to do that. He's really not. Yeah. People are going to just drag him through the water. He has no chance in helping. The only chance he had about being president was if he had actually done the right thing, invoked the 25th Amendment, because then you completely eliminate, you know, this whole need for impeachment. Trump no longer gets the benefits of being an ex-president. Secret Service details completely removed, which, by the way, that's a danger that we probably are not advanced enough to talk about, how there was actual people in the Secret Service who have loyalty to Trump.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't know if
that's a
they got
possibility.
removed. I don't know if they got fired, but there were reports that these people actually are loyal to Trump. There was people within the military who were loyal to Trump. This dude was dangerous. Mike Pence should have invoked that 25th Amendment because he did exactly what all these, shows are like, these political traitor shows are about. Donald Trump literally tried to do that, and he didn't invoke the 25th Amendment.
Yeah, Mike Pence. I'll use the bleeper twice. I'll make sure to remember. Mike Pence did that whole thing, after the 6 hours of the insurrection, and they finally got the people out. When they retook the Senate chambers, Mike Pence made some little speech, and they was like, "Now let's get back to work." Trying to show that machismo. I was like, "All right, but where's that machismo when it comes to holding the dude accountable?" None of that was there. But speaking of not holding people accountable, so I mentioned that 57 senators voted to convict, 50 Democrats, all 50 Democrats, and 7 Republicans, including Pat Toomey that I mentioned before. In the House, 10 Republican congressmen voted to convict, including a couple from Washington State. There's a lady whose name I can't remember, but she was the one who was apprised of the call that Kevin McCarthy had with Donald Trump, in which Donald Trump told Kevin McCarthy that I guess these people care more about the election than you do. After Kevin McCarthy was trying to tell Trump to call off his people, because when Kevin McCarthy was like, "Hey, your supporters are overrunning Capitol. Can you say something to get them out of here?" Trump's first reaction was, "They are Antifa. They aren't my people." And then Kevin McCarthy was like, "No, they're wearing MAGA hats. They're carrying Trump flag. They're your people." And then Trump was like, "I guess they care more about the election than you do." And Kevin McCarthy was like, "Who the F do you think you're talking to?" Yeah. And McCarthy let a lot of people in on this conversation, including this lady from Washington State. She was one of the people that they wanted to call as a witness, but apparently both the Democrats and Republicans were like, "We don't want this trial to extend another couple of weeks. We have to go home for Valentine's Day, yada yada yada." So they didn't. They didn't. They were just like, "Okay, no witnesses." But it was the fact that Trump said that, I guess these people care more about the election than you do, actually doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all, because when at the end of the whole day, when this whole thing happened, he had that tweet saying, "This is what happens when," basically, to paraphrase, "This is what happens when an election is stolen from patriots. We stormed the Capitol."
Landslide election.
Oh yeah, a historical landslide election is stolen from patriots. These are the things that happen. He said that if you screw with me, we will take your capital. He's essentially what he was saying. So him saying that, I guess they care more about the election than you do, it's actually not that shocking to me. It just shows who he is as a person. And the fact that they acquitted is just ridiculous. But that's the last thing I have on the impeachment, unless you had anything extra to add.
No, man. I will say one thing when you mentioned Trump, talking about Trump, is people don't get too happy that Donald Trump is no longer in your face with Twitter, Facebook, and all that stuff, because now he might be even more dangerous because the stuff that he's saying is behind closed doors and might not get enough mainstream attention, which means the people who should be paying attention to him aren't paying attention to him, but the people who love him are still paying attention to what he says. I don't think he'll be able to run in 2024. I really don't. I just don't think he's healthy enough for that. But if he does, and if the Democrats don't do a good job, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins.
Nah, not me. I don't think he can win in 2024. I think Trump's biggest weapon was his megaphone, Twitter. Him being off of Twitter hurts a lot. And we're not seeing the real effects of it just yet. It's only been like a month and a half since he's been off of Twitter. The next election isn't for another 3.5 years, right? Americans have a short attention span. The reason why we couldn't get Trump out of our faces because it was literally every day. Literally every day he would do something new. So it felt like he was ever present. But without Twitter, We'd have to wait for him to call into Fox
I
and
don't think it's
Friends.
without Twitter. I think it's without the media. If the media blacks him out, then we're okay.
Well, that's another thing. The media had to cover him.
The media was the one that gave him the platform.
But they had to cover him. He was the president, and also when he was running, he was
an unprecedented amount of platform during the
primaries. Yeah.
If they hadn't given him as much attention and actually had allowed the policy, the process to actually play out the way, he probably wouldn't have won. It might have been somebody else who would come.
But you have someone who is polling number one in a party's primary, saying outlandish things. You have to cover it, because here's the flip side of it. He goes and he says he's polling number one, right? He goes and he says Mexicans are rapists, or he says we're going to do a Muslim ban and all that stuff, and you don't cover it. The flip side is people are like, oh, so this guy saying all these racist stuff, and you basically brush it under the carpet. You're not highlighting that he's saying all this bad stuff. That's the
but the problem is the other flip side is that you're also giving it a platform, so now it's just being amplified. And the thing is, though, remember, the balance was way uneven. It was like he got 85% of the coverage. All the 30,000 other Republicans that were running, like he used the media the way he was supposed to use it.
Yeah.
If he tries to use the media and the media decides to black him out, then we should be okay. But he's still dangerous as shit.
That's why I don't think it can work the same way it did last time for him, because now all the outlandish stuff he says is stuff that we already know. It's stuff that he's already.
Maybe they'll have the Sarah Palin effect, like, where they gave it to them at the beginning, and then after that they're like, we're poor.
Yeah, there's nothing new. If he says something about immigrants, says something about Muslims, or whatever, there's nothing new. But back then, it's like the guy leading a major political party is saying these crazy things. You have to cover it, and if you don't cover it, that's negligence. It really is negligence of your job to not cover it. So when people want to blame the media for giving them all that attention, I'm always thinking, but what's the flip side? You don't cover the ridiculous things he's saying. So, but I think he's gonna fall off.
So what you're saying is Bernie Sanders should have dropped a few F-bombs and called the people a few names. He might be president right now.
He would have gotten more coverage. Yeah, it would have gotten more coverage. Okay, so that's it for the impeachment. Then